Good morning. You are on mute, Ash.
Good morning. Yeah, early morning. I have need more coffee, isn't it? I'm a teetotaler, so I make my tea with little bit of ginger and bit of little spices which I gathered from India. So yeah, that
Oh,
keeps me busy.
I'm super jealous now. Love spices too. I use when I'm cooking food for tea, so I bet it was super delicious. But probably
Good.
didn't wake you up properly since
Not
you're
at all,
hungry.
Miss. Yeah, it's all good. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. And we are really, really excited to be here again and talk to you about technology, about some of the things we can do, and some practical tips. So, yeah, so ginger cardamom. Yeah, exactly, Jayan. That is a good one. Yeah, so I like that. So, hopefully, everyone had a good morning and a good afternoon, probably, and is planning for more exciting things for weekend. And we appreciate you take time to be here on weekend. I know there are a lot of things which you people might be having to do, and you're still being here. So we want to give you the most return on the time you're investing. So if there is anything we can do to make your learning easier, better, let us know. Don't be hesitant in asking questions or sharing feedback. We would not be able to incorporate everything because there is some uh, common standard we have to maintain for most of the people. But yes, if there are something we can help you, just reach out, and you will probably reach out to us on LinkedIn or maybe email, whatever you feel comfortable, just reach out. All right, good. Anything else, Jamila, before we start?
No, all good on my side. Just kind of a small addition. We do encourage people to reach out, which they're doing, which is cool. But we are one too many. I mean, all of us, we have like a limited bandwidth. So if we don't get back to you within the time frame that you are expecting, or you are saying, "Hey, I have an interview at this time. Can you guide me, etc." Please be mindful that we are doing all of this on top of our day-to-day jobs, and we are limited to provide support that we would love to provide to all of you, to a limited number of people. So if you don't hear from us, it means we just don't have a backlog, or maybe we somehow missed your message in the inbox. Feel free
Yeah,
to follow up, or feel free to reach out to other members, and just not to kind of get stuck with one person if that person doesn't reply.
good. Now let me figure out a way to stop the marker which is going back at the back. Uh, Give me a
Mhm.
minute. Yeah,
Yeah,
banner I
sure.
have to send. Yeah, there are
I see a lot of,
technology sometime can be tricky, isn't it? It is
absolutely.
gone now. It's gone now. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So we will quickly talk about what is the agenda for today, and then I'll let you decide, let you learn things. Give me a minute. I'll add my screen, and we will just get started. And the agenda, as we said, is we planned, but if there are a lot of interest for a specific topic, we would be happy to accommodate that too. So don't think that this agenda is a writing on a wall, it can't change kind of a stuff. But yeah, we can alter it if there are a lot of people interested in something, and if we know about it. Obviously we do not know everything. There is a huge ocean of knowledge available, but yeah, there are some basic stuff or some of the services, some of the certification questions, whatever you have, just let us know, and I'll help you learn more on that. Now I'll hide myself from camera so you can focus on the content, and I'll be still speaking. But yeah, let me remove Jamila and hide myself from the content, and you can then keep on learning about the new stuff. Okay, so what we plan to do today, we plan to discuss things related to technical track compute. Compute is a very important aspect of anything you build. I don't expect that any service or any application which is built will not be requiring a compute power. So we will talk about that. Networking track, I'll use the word hold the door here. We will discuss about NACL and security group. Just a quick checking here. Uh, Anyone knows what is the origin of this word? Anyone of a fan for some of the fantasy series? Anyone seen that hold the door? It is something which you might have seen somewhere. Anyone, anywhere you have heard about it? Hold the door. Yeah, yeah, GOT, Game of Thrones, yeah, exactly, Junior. So yeah, that's why I just stole that thing from there, and we will do the same thing. We will hold the door, Hodor, yeah, exactly. So yeah, just a little bit of pun intended. Let's move forward, and then we will talk about hands-on, when Jamila would take over, and she would talk about creating and connect to your instances and some more stuff. Now, the activities we are planning something which you could follow on your own, right? But if there are some any additional things which you need, just let us know, and we would be happy to accommodate those two. So let me get started with the first technical track here, which is my compute in the cloud. If you remember what we discussed so far, we discussed about global infrastructure. We talked about foundational services, some of them networking and storage. Networking is the full track. We will discuss that. And then we will be then having platform services also on top of it. So what we discussed so far is storage. Networking is already a track which we are discussing and we'll discuss more. And today we will be focusing on the content of the compute part. Let me read one comment here. If you can share resource in advance for participant to go through, will help everyone to go through those in advance and ask many questions to clear this doubt. I like that idea, Harikishan. So let's see how we what we can do. So yeah, we will try. I'll see what can be done on that, but most probably it may not be giving you enough time. Maybe just one day, because I have my schedule for creating this content is on Thursday. So on Thursday I create a content, and then on Saturday we present it. So maybe one day, but we'll try to give you some heads up here so that you can be little more prepared. So yes, that is a good idea. I'll do that. Okay, good. Let me check one more question before we move forward. In S3 workshop, I have output curl, S3 next initialization, security, context failed, unknown error, and can't find a solution. I'm not sure what it would have happened, but ping Prasad on LinkedIn, and probably he would have idea on that. Or if he can't respond, maybe he's busy. Give him a day or two. If not, then let me know, and I'll try to look into it. What could have happened, and we can think about a solution on that. Yeah, this is a feedback we need, right? So keep on giving this feedback, and that would improve, and everyone would get benefited out of all these things. All right, thank you. Let's move forward and talk about compute here. Now, what is your understanding of compute? When you hear a word compute, what do you think about it? Anyone? What is your thinking about compute? What is compute? What is your understanding when I say compute? What is this compute? CPU, yes. EC2. EC2 is one form of compute processing. That makes sense, that we want to ensure that we want to perform some processing. Now, when we say processing, it doesn't always mean that it has to be CPU. What if we need network power, right? What if we need some processing to be done in memory? So yes, any processor processing data, manipulate data, exactly. So this is what we are all looking for. Computers, where it is a general term, anywhere we need to execute something, and that execution may require some resources. So we are planning here that how we could utilize some resources and add some resources so that we can provide some processing power. So to calculate and answer an amount by using a machine memory processor, yes. So I would say compute is a generic term used for referencing processing power, memory, networking, storage, and other required resources. What I mean by other required resources, what if you are doing a graphical processing and you need a GPU, graphical processing unit for it, right? So that is also a compute, something which allows you to break down your complex algorithms or program and then calculate the result and delivers the value, and it could be automatically will be provided by CPU, memory, networking, storage, and maybe additional things like we have GPUs, right? Like if we will talk about maybe in machine learning chapters, what happens that even you could have a GPU associated to your servers just for machine learning inferences, and once that inferences are removed or done, you could remove that GPU and run your machine like a standard machine. So those type of capability which enhances your capabilities to process something, whether it is in terms of memory, network, storage, or any other resource, that is what we would be considering as a compute. Now, these resources can be physical or virtual, right? Makes sense. Initially, we were all using physical resources, but nowadays, I would say most of the resources are virtually provisioned. Ranga says number crunching. Yes, that is another good thing. Yeah, we were doing this. Initially, computers were designed to do number crunching instead of running lengthy algorithms and doing manual processes. Probably calculator was initially invented for that, and then a big brother of calculator is somehow is a computer in a way, right? Now, physical servers have their own challenges. In a physical or traditional approach, what we do, we run physical servers, we rack them, stack them, power them, cool them, and then we have an operating system of our choice, and on top of it then we run our applications, right? And once application is ready, I would be able to access this server. But the challenge of this is a traditional approach, and industry average utilization of the server is 5 to 10%. Now, what is happening here that over a period of time our servers are becoming powerful and powerful, right? I remember my first computer which I bought was a 120 megahertz Pentium processor, Intel Pentium, and I was very proud because that time only 100 megahertz processors were common, and I have worked very hard, talked to a lot of people to get a 120 megahertz processor. And if I'm talking about this specific megahertz today, I would say any basic electronics you pick up, it would have more than that capability. So what is happening over a period of time that my servers are becoming powerful and powerful, multi-core processor, lot of RAM available inside it, and that's where challenge is my application may not be able to utilize the full power of that particular hardware which I am providing, and servers are coming with dual CPU, multi-core, and then multiple RAM slots inside. So lot of resource is getting wasted in that case. So what is happening? My average server utilization is just remaining 5 to 10%. Think of it like you bought a house which has 20 rooms inside, and you are just one single person. You are just staying into this particular place, and that's how you are utilizing that, right? So that can be one challenging thing because we have just wasted this much of money or this much of resources, which is not at all good for any business or anything, right? All right, good. Ranga says their computer was 166 4 KB RAM, 16 MB RAM. Yeah, no, not even 16 MB, 20 MB hard disk. Looks funny now. I agree on that. 1992. Good. So, so this is my traditional approach of servers. Now, what we do now, we have a virtualization based approach. We take the same physical server. On top of it, we run hypervisor. It is a kind of operating system, but it is fine tuned to run on on a specific set of hardware and virtualize your hardware, and that allows me to create a virtual machine. So this virtualization approach virtualizes the hardware like CPU, memory, disk, and network, and it creates a virtual machine resources or virtual resources. On top of it, I can run my operating system, I can run my application, and I can have multiple virtual machines running like that. The example I take to explain this basic concept related to virtualization is think of that you have a piece of land, and on that piece of land, you could say, hey, I would be building one house and one family would be living into it. That is one option. Or on this piece of land, I could build a multi-story building, and in that multi-story building, there would be multiple families living, and that's how I am best utilizing the resources I have. So piece of land is same, that is your server, and then depending on what type of constructions you do, either you will accommodate one family, which is your traditional approach, or you would accommodate multiple families or multiple virtual machines inside. That is your virtualization based approach. So hopefully this would be giving you a better idea on that. Now, what made virtualization possible? I would say because of the powerful machine, we have so much CPU, so much RAM available that we could run multiple virtual machines on top of it. That's why virtualization has given way to this approach, and we are utilizing now a better server like 70 to 80% utilization is very common on that. Right. So virtual machine, I could refer them as a digital version of a physical computer. You could call it like a software based computer, or a computer implemented into software, a server running into software. So that is a virtual machine. And a virtual machine can perform all the same function as a physical computer, including running application and operating system. So that can be done. Obviously you can't kick a virtual machine. Like sometime when your servers were there into the server room and they were making a lot of noises, like in the sense the fan was not performing as expected, you would give a gentle tap and it will work. You can't do that with virtual machine. But other than that, most of the operation which are there with a physical machine can be performed in a virtual machine too. And as this is a virtual machine running a full blown operating system, you would still have to perform maintenance operation like update or system monitoring. So that would also still be required. So that is what a virtual machine is. Any questions here so far? Anyone not following along? Anything which is not clear? Maybe for some of you it will be very basic, but yeah, I want to ensure that everyone is on the same level and then we can utilize it, right? But also virtual machine is not making noises. I agree on that. I agree on that. So that is true. Yeah. So just you can't kick them, but yeah, they are not making noises. So that is much better, right? Good. Now let's move forward. Now uh, how Amazon runs this service. So in Amazon world, this one is referred as Amazon Compute Elastic Compute Cloud, or EC2. We love this word elastic in Amazon: elastic compute, elastic load balancer, elastic map reduce, elastic IP, lots and elastic network interfaces. So elastic is a flexibility which is being given to you. That is my EC2. And the service calls itself a virtual server in a cloud. We could utilize a virtualization server. So in a traditional world, you would take hypervisor from companies like VMware, Hyper-V, Oracle VM, and then we would be running virtual machine on top of it. Now AWS is running EC2s from, I believe, 2006 onwards. So in this all days or all these years, AWS has perfected the way that what would be the best way to run your application and run your EC2 machine. So AWS has built their own system, which is called Nitro. Check for the more detail about this Nitro system. This is a good evolutionary hardware which is made up of software hardware component. Security is also built into that, and that is a purpose built hardware software. If we have taken a traditional server from the market, maybe a lot of that feature may not be needed for us. So what we did, we have created our own custom hardware software combination that we call Nitro, and probably when you launch a new instance, it would be running into a Nitro system. So that's what we are trying to do here. And once this hardware software is ready, on top of it, I could run an instance which will have operating system, which will have application, and obviously I could run multiple instances if the need be. So the service is called Amazon EC2, and the resources which you create inside that is called your Amazon EC2 instances. Now we use the word very interchangeably. We sometimes say we have a EC2 machine, we just say we have an instance, we say we have virtual server, but these are all referencing to the same type of compute resource by which we could provide the running capacity to my application. So that's what is a virtual machine. All right. And running these virtual machine in AWS is very easy. I'll quickly go to console and start running a virtual machine there so that you could understand what I'm planning to do. So I'm logging into console and I would be looking for a hosting of a web server. Let's complete and create a web server so that we can utilize it for some application running or whatever. Could you explain the different type of hypervisor? Uh, okay, give me a minute. Give me a minute. That is a question here. I would say there are two type of hypervisors. Let me draw that. Okay, so I would say, let me clear and type this again. Give me a minute. I would say there is something called type 1 and there is something called type 2 hypervisor. Or this is called bare metal hypervisors, or these are called your um, just standard OS level hypervisor, or this is the best word here is called hosted hypervisor. Let me explain the differences between them. Bare metal says that, hey, give me a physical server, and then you would directly install the hypervisor layer on top of it. So this is my physical server at the backend, and what I have to do, give me a minute, my, yeah, color changing. So this one is your hypervisor here itself. And this one is your hardware, the server. This one is referred as a bare metal hypervisor, means directly on the metal, directly on the hardware you are running it. That is one approach. Second approach says, okay, let me have my hardware. Let me have its own operating system, which could be Windows, which could be Linux or Solaris, whatever you prefer, a traditional operating system. And then I would install the hypervisor as an application here. So that is a hosted hypervisor. It is being hosted on top of an operating system. So in a traditional hypervisor, the bare metal hypervisor, anyone knows the name, probably you have heard about things like VMware has something called vSphere, that is your hypervisor which runs directly on the metal. Then Microsoft has their Hyper-V, which runs directly on top of it. Oracle has its own hardware software which you could run on. And when it comes to hosted hypervisor, in a hosted hypervisor, you would find products like VMware Workstation, which will be running on a Windows machine. Then you may have things like virtual desktop from Microsoft. So these are referred as your hosted or type 2 hypervisors. Right. So depends on your use case. Now the challenge here is that in this case, your operating system is treating hypervisor as one single application, and it may not be giving the all the required performance or the control to the hypervisor because it is being treated as an application. Whereas in this case, this hypervisor has a complete control of the hardware. It knows how to utilize the best possible way. It knows best possible ways to utilize this hardware. So performance wise, it would be giving you better performance, because in this case what is also happening, when you have a operating system running, let's say on this hypervisor, now I deploy a VM and it has an operating system. So its request has to go here to this hypervisor software. This hypervisor software will talk to operating system, and then operating system will get it sorted by the hardware. But in this case, if my virtual machine is running here, it has its operating system, it can directly go and access these services. So that is much faster depending on how you want to configure that. So that are the two type of hypervisor: bare metal and hosted. Okay, clear. I hope this one is clear and you have a better idea on how all these things work. Let's see, then move forward. Hopefully that answers your question. And if you get your question answered, let me know. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. Okay, so I am on AWS console and I am on a Oregon region. And let's say I have to deploy a EC2 instance. So I will go to the service EC2. This is a AWS management console, not a very complicated stuff, just a UI by which we are accessing AWS services. And here I have something called EC2 dashboard. So EC2 dashboard would give me idea on what is currently available or running in my Oregon region in terms of EC2. So I don't see anything as of now running here. Everything is zero. Just I have some security group. We would go ahead and then discuss about creating something called an instance. So I'm on an instance page, and here I would be deploying an instance. My requirement is very simple. I want to deploy a web server, and in that web server, I would be hosting a page. That's all. I don't want to put a lot of complicated stuff here. So just a simple web server which I want to start. Let's go ahead and talk about launching an instance. This is a wizard driven process which I'm doing. But if I want, I could do the similar stuff through command line also. Should not be a problem at all. So I'm launching an instance and it is a wizard driven process. I would specify some basic information. And once this information has been added, we should be able to create an instance. Right. So I would need to give it name, and I think my web server is not a bad name, right? So let me use that name as it is. I would be then selecting different operating system level information. This is referred as AMI, Amazon Machine Image. Amazon Machine Image is basically a template which has some common operating system and application installed, which can serve as a base image for you to get started. Right. So you would have a base image, and through that base image, you would be then deploying a operating system. These are maintained by AWS. See this, these are quick start. So this quick start are giving you some commonly used operating system images like Windows and Red Hat, and it may not just have operating system, but let's say if I select Windows, here I could select a Windows 2022 base image, or if I look here, I may be able to find image with additional software installed on that. Like we have SQL Server here, we have a base here, we have Visual Studio Enterprise, we have Office Professional Plus. So you could decide on what works well for you, and you can get started from there, right? So these are called my AMIs, Amazon Machine Image. You could use quick start AMIs if you want to, no problem at all on that. Or you could go ahead and say, hey, these are not serving my purpose. I need something else. So these are the four categories of AMI you could select from. Quick start, commonly used AMIs, 47 available. My AMIs, this is something which I created. So those will be displayed to me here. If I have something created, I would be seeing them here. Marketplace is something trusted by AWS and third party AMI. So AWS will be working with different providers. Let's say I am looking for something like I am looking for some DevOps tool, so I could select it and I would be able to pick up some software which has been made available by companies like WordPress, Kali Linux, Palo Alto. So these are my marketplace AMI, which is ensuring we are utilizing something which has been provided by a vendor to get started faster. Question from Rahul: is there a specific way resource to learn CLI? Yeah, I will talk about that. We will like, address that. So maybe I'll have one lecture one day just to talk about CLI, because yeah, that can be very interesting for a lot of people. So good thing, Rahul. I'll see what can be done for that. So that is marketplace, and then there is a community AMI. So community AMI ensures that we are able to access something which has been published by anyone. I feel that some things are common and people use it very frequently. So as a community service, I could create a AMI and make it available to public. One reason here that I may not trust community AMI directly because they are not verified by AWS. AWS allows anyone to publish it. It is like a Git repository. So we expect people would be responsible and would be keeping things secure, but it may happen that some of the things which we have selected from here, we may not be able to get them patched, or maybe they are running an older version, or there is some vulnerabilities inside. So that may happen. So I may stay away from community. I'm not saying I should not be using it, but I would say if there is a quick start AMI available, I would prefer that because it would give me the latest updated version maintained by AWS. Now, when I say maintained, it doesn't mean that new patches will automatically get deployed in my application. Right? Now, what would happen in this case that I would be deploying something today which is from the latest version of that operating system, but if the new features come in, then I would be responsible to maintain those features within my application. It will not be automatically done. Right? Question from Firefix: is all marketplace IMAs free, AMIs free? Answer is no on that. It depends, I would say. So some vendors here may give you free AMIs, right? And once you start using it, maybe they will give you a trial. They would give you a license code for a while, and then you may have to pay for it. So not all of them. It would probably would have some cost associated. See this here, I could select free trial. So this is like free trial available on these products, but not other products. So it depends. Only 1153 are free trial. Others I may have to pay for them. So it depends. It's not a straightforward answer. It depends on who has published that AMI and what is the use case for them. So I could have selected that. Right. So I'm keeping it quick start. I'm selecting Amazon Linux, and here if you see there are two options. One says 64-bit x86. x86 is representing your Intel based processor and AMD based processor. x86 architecture is commonly used to run your is referred as Intel and AMD based processor, whereas 64-bit ARM, which is Amazon's own brand of CPU called Graviton, and we could launch from here too, and it would be much cheaper for me to run. It doesn't change the operating system, but it changed the AMI used on that. See this. So if I use 64-bit ARM, it would deploy AMI with the number 05 something. And if I use 64-bit x86, it would be deploying this AMI because the drivers in the operating system would be different. And that's why I have to select whatever works well for me. Right. So I have selected that, done. Very basic thing. And we will see what else can be done on that. So I selected my AMI, and then I would keep on moving forward and deploy some additional stuff on that. So see this. So AMI is selected, free tier eligible, verified provider. If you are doing these things in your personal account, be aware that you should select free tier eligible. And here in instance type also, you should select a free tier eligible instance. Right. So this is my instance C6 dot medium. These instances have a specific naming convention. So these instances will give you specific power performance in terms of CPU and memory, and you could have selected different type of instances here. You could see the list is up to 624 instances. This list can be smaller or larger depending on which region you are launching your instances on. So it depends. And here you could see that I could go up to a CPU of 448. I could have this much amount of memory, and this is again a huge number, zero point 0.5 GB of memory, or if I want 18 terabyte of memory, right? Not even some people, we would have a hard disk in our laptop of 18 terabyte, but this kind of machines are available. So it depends on what your use case are. But my use case is to just utilize a very specific instance type. Let's say I want to use A1.2 extra large. So that's what I am utilizing here for running my machine. So this is A1 is my ARM based architecture. It will give me 8 CPU, 16 GB of RAM, up to 10 gigabit of network performance. Maybe this is a good enough instance for me, so I could go ahead and keep it, or I could change it to a smaller one depending on the use case I have. Shouldn't be a problem at all right. So I hope everyone is following along. Very basic stuff. And then I would be selecting some additional things. We will talk about key pair, like Jamila would talk about key pairs. She would explain you the benefit of having a key pair and how to associate it. Some network setting, like we talked about VPC, we could have selected a VPC and a subnet and a security group. And maybe I want to allow HTTP traffic from internet. That is what my security group setting is. We will discuss that. Let me check a question here. If we choose ARM based AMI, does that mean we need to use instance type which has a G feature in them? Yes, we would need that because the drivers in that AMI are fine tuned for ARM based architecture, and it may not be having your infrastructure driver for your Intel and AMD based hardware, right? So that's how you should select ARM based. If you're selecting, the AMI should also match what you have actually selected. It won't work in vice versa, right? So it won't allow you to select it, right? Question from in-memory GB and GIB. So the way we measure these things is little different. Like so, when we consider that what is 1 kilobyte, let me try to write it down so it would be easy for. Uh, we will discuss about that. Give me a minute, please. Uh, give me a minute. Give me a minute. And we got it here, and what we are trying to do here, that we want to perform, let's say, HTTP based traffic here. Give me a minute. My pen color is different. I have to fix that. Yeah, it should be work. Now when we say 1 KB, one school of thought says 1 KB is 1000 bytes, right? And another school of thought, the calculation wise, says 1 KB equal to 1024 bytes. So this is little different way of measuring things, right? Like if I talk about how we measure liquid, so in some cases we measure liquid in liters, right? In some places you would be measuring them into a pint, or you would be measuring them into a gallon. So this is how the different units are there, and that's exactly is happening here too. So you would be having this kind of 1000 bytes and 1024 bytes, and once you are ready, you would be, that is the difference between GB and GIB. Check on internet, you would find exact detail that how much is in 1 GIB, but I gave you the idea that it is a difference between how we pursue 1 KB or 1000 KB. So you should be able to see that differences on that. Right. Thanks, Raghavendra, for sharing that. So please, thanks for sharing. Let me quickly show it here. It's a big answer, but it is in chat. So pick it up, put it on Notepad, and then start reading that. So yeah, that is the same thing. How we implement into 2 to the power 30 or 1 to the power 10. Okay, so we could select all these things, we could provide the storage, and we will put advanced details here. In advanced detail, I could be adding some more information about launching this, and Jamila would be covering this further. So I won't go ahead and launch it, but I had just given you basic idea, and you would be able to see this thing in action when Jamila is going with the hands-on approach, right? So I hope this thing is clear. What I want to discuss here is different instance types. Instance types are allowing you to launch your performance basic characteristics. Right. So what we are seeing here, m5.d.extra large, this is an instance type. The first letter here represents the instance family. Like I can identify that what this particular instance is. M, anyone knows what M stands for here? What is m5.d? What is representation of M here? What it is called M for? What is M for? M type of instances, what they are good for. Anyone? Memory, that is a common misconception. It is multi-purpose. I don't know why they have made confusions here. So this is your multi-purpose instance type. Memory optimized are referred as R. So I call it RAM. In the documentation, they will call it memory optimized. So instances starting with R, they are memory optimized. Starting with M is a multi-purpose, which is a good combination of CPU and memory. If it is starting with C, it would be considering your CPU and CPU optimized instances. If it is starting with G, it would be having your graphics processing unit. So these are some instance type, and you can find lot of information about different instance types. And we keep on launching instances. Like we have i3 instances, which are giving you the bare metal hardware to run your own operating system. Right. So hopefully this thing is clear that how these instances are. And in these instances, you would also find some additional information, like you see this last letter D. D shows additional capability, and M here shows the instance generation. So 4, 5, 6, this could be the thing. More the number, that is better performing instance. So M6D dot extra large, M5D dot extra large, these are the instance type. Here, D, the second letter which we have here, is representing additional disk capability. Similarly, you may have something which has a network capabilities on that. So additional network capabilities associated with that. So those will be displayed to you into your instance type. Let me quickly go to console to show you how it actually looks on that. Why I don't recommend using T-based instances for production? I'll answer that question. Good question. I'll explain you the question on that. Right. So this question is there. I'll explain that in a minute. Uh, Now, what is happening here that when I'm going to different instance types, I would be selecting them depending on what my use cases are, right? So we can select the instance type and it will take little time to load because it's a huge list of 600 plus instances. And then you would be able to see these type of things, very low network performance, moderate performance, and all additional details on that. So let's say I select instance M5 dot extra large. What is M5 dot extra large? It has 4 CPU, x86 and 64 architecture, 16 GB of RAM, and see this, up to 10 gigabit, 0.192 USD, 0.376 USD per hour. And let me go ahead and search for a specific instance type. Right. So we may utilize any of them like C5A, and this is, see this A here. This one has a AMD based processor in that. Right. And if you see this thing here, it tells you that hey, it would be running on a Nitro type of hypervisor. It will be giving you 24 extra large and more detail about how much is the compute capacity, is free tier available or not, is it a bare metal or not, how many valid cores can be there. These all information will be displayed on that. So every instance type will be available for you to verify. Could go here and identify that information on that. I'm interested in, let's say, C5N dot extra large. What is this N? N here represents that, see this, see the difference, up to 25 gigabits. So it is giving you additional information or additional processing power for your networking workload. And similarly, I could find, let's say, something called C5.D or C5, sorry, dot D or A or N. N is not there in C5, sorry, C5N, see this one, or C5A. And if it is, so then some of them may have some additional capabilities. See this, two capabilities, AMD and disk associated with that. So if I'm selecting this instance type, what it has a local storage associated which may be required for some of the processing on that, so you could utilize it, right? So should not be a problem, right? Now U6T11 metal M6A extra large, that instance type, Hari Prasad, this one is a new instance type. What we allow customers to use something called metal instances. Metal instances is when customers want to run their own hypervisor. They want, give me control of the hardware directly, and I would push my own operating system on that, like VMware. So when you are running a VMware workload on AWS, we allow you to run VMware software on our physical hardware. Those are all your metal instances, because that time your hypervisor or operating system needs full control of your hardware. So that are called metal instances. So metal instances would be giving you that kind of access. You would utilize it, right? Now, let me quickly answer some questions here. Why Amazon doesn't recommend using T-based instances for production? T is a typical instance. This is not a guaranteed instance, Shetan. What happens here in this case, if I draw that, give me a minute. So in case of T instances, consider that this is a hypervisor behind the scene. This is my system, let's say Nitro system. T instances are not giving you a dedicated kind of performance. They give you something called burstable performance. Means if you say I need one CPU, we would give you one CPU, but that one CPU may not be available 100% to you. A baseline performance may be baseline you are having, let's say, 50% of that CPU capability, and in some cases you could burst up to 100, come back and maintain your baseline. So let's say this is your 50% capacity, 100%. So most of the time you would run here and you will burst and come back to base, burst and come back to base. So this is not predicting the performance you are expecting, because this one probably is running on a system where a lot of machines running, keeping the cost low, and maybe it may happen that one instance is using more, one instance is using less, and that's why they are not recommended for production, because they do not give you a consistent state of performance. So that is what we mean by EC2 T2 not to be used for production system, right? So that is a one way. Hopefully that answers your question. And so question from Pawan is, can we use M-based AMI for database servers? Pawan, you could use whatever you want. We don't stop you from installing whatever you want to. But is it more optimized for database workload? Probably yes, probably not. Sometime, even if I'm running database, it may not require that much of processing power or that much of memory. So it depends. What you are utilizing will be depending on your use case, and M can work for database server, I'm not denying it, but best would be you launch it on M, check and verify whether you are getting the most utilization or not, otherwise change it. And we have, if you are launching RDS databases, then we would be utilizing a specific DB instance type which are fine-tunedly created for database server. So that would be difference, right? Okay, question says, so many times AWS says certified. How a user can validate or just trust them? You have to trust them, Ranga, right? There is a process of verification and validation. It's not like I just publish something and it gets verified. So it would have to be verified. Let's say when you are downloading an app from App Store or from your Google Play Store, Google, Apple, they verify when some product is uploaded on them, right? Apple has very stringent requirement that application you are submitting to be made available on marketplace, it has to be verified by them for any type of vulnerability, any time of personal information gathering and all. So that would depend on it, and if we trust them, right? We download an app, and if it is verified, we trust them. So yes, we would need to trust them in this particular case, right? Question from Junior. For migration, the EC2 instances are selected automatically by a tool, or the analysis of which EC2 choose is manual. It depends, Junior. I would say you decide, if the depends on the tool. So if you are using something called migration evaluator, it would tell you that, hey, on-prem you have a server with 4 CPU, and when you are migrating it to cloud, based on what you use on regular basis, we recommend, let's say, C4 instances to you. So tool can decide. It will depend on the tool. AWS migration tool allows you to select, or to gives you a suggestion to select which instance type will well suit your workload. So yes, that would be there. Question from Asna: to change the instance type of running instance by terminating it. Uh, I won't say terminate. I would say shut down and then change the instance type. So it should be into power off state if you want to change something on that. So power off is required. You can't change type of instance while it is running. So that won't be there. Hi. And thanks, Parna, for answering question. And launch a new one by mapping the volume. Yes. Question is instance type can be changed after stopping it. Yes, that is exactly what I said. And then uh, migration will be initiated based on what requirement? This question is not very clear. Migration in the sense, Mahi, could be I'm running 100 machines on-prem and now I don't want to continue. I want to move them to cloud. So what will happen in this particular case? Let me explain that. So you could use some tools, and those tools would monitor your information that, okay, you have 4 CPU, but you use only 20% of that capacity. And in terms of memory, you have 16 GB of RAM and you use only 30% of that. So this data would be collected. You could select the gathering environment or gathering time period. I want to decide based on 7 days of collected data or 14 days or 30 days. And then based on the data collected, we would identify that what would be the best suitable instance for you in AWS. Will it be T2.micro, or will it be C5, or will it be M5? So that will be the data collected used as the basis to launch your instances, right? I hope everyone is clear on that. Any questions, any doubts, any confusions here? Okay, good. So hopefully this has given you a little more idea, and you will get to see more into the break, sorry, into the hands-on. So Jamila would go through this process and would launch an instance and will tell you how to connect and verify the details on that. So I hopefully this was clear. Now I could not cover all the pricing options, but probably we covered it into previous videos. So check previous videos on YouTube and you should find a good way to identify that how all these things will be priced, right? So let's go ahead and put a 5-minute timer. I hope 5 minutes is good enough. And once we return, we will then go through the through the VPC kind of component, networking component, and then we will go ahead and discuss more interesting stuff. So I hope everyone is enjoying. Enjoy your 5-minute break. I can see Abhijit also joined us. Hey Abhijit, and keep your questions coming after 5 minutes, and we will then be happy to respond. Okay, enjoy your break. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is back and can hear me fine. If you are back, type in chat last book you read. Which book you have read last? Let me know that. Never split the difference. Yeah, good negotiation, isn't it, Junior? That is a good book on negotiation. Can't remember. Probably you are reading too much, isn't it? A century is not enough. I haven't read that. So I have to check that. What is that book all about? Biography of Steve Jobs. Yeah, inspiring person, I would say. AWS white paper. That's a good thing. Reading 0 to 1. Okay, I have not seen that book. I have to check that. Practicing Mind, Kafka. Sorry, I can't put everything on screen, but yeah, hopefully you can. White paper. I'll share what I am reading as of now. So this is a book called Atomic Habit, and this is what I have picked up today. And probably I would try to read it from today onwards. Yeah, I used to read a lot of books, but yeah, I'm not following it very religiously. But that's a bad habit, I would say. Read something which is apart from technology. Phoenix Project is a good book. It's a good book. uh, Bald Coder. I like the name. So yeah, the Phoenix Project is a good book for technology and a good fun, right? Now that reminds me that I'm also working on a book project. That one would be coming in May, and that would be with lots of analogies in that. So I would be sharing more detail as we near to release date. I'm working with a publisher in this time, and that would be a more in detailed book on analogies and using cloud and learning them by day-to-day stuff. So I'll share more detail once we reach to the nearing dates. Okay, good. Thank you. Ah, thanks, Rahul. Okay, now I'll go forward and talk about security group and network ACL. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Greg Macmillan's Essentialism. I'm building my list, so thanks for sharing that, Volodar. I'll check that too. Now, I'll talk about networking, and in networking track, let's focus on the sum of the. Thanks, Asna. Thanks for reading my book. Okay. Now, this architecture should not be very disfamiliar to you. Okay. What we are seeing here that we want to ensure that we are protecting our workload. We don't want to just keep them running because it would be not a good thing. It would create a lot of problems and challenges and lots of things. Parna has a message here which says, Jamila, how do you get time to do so much besides the other things you are involved in? Yeah, she is superwoman, I would say. Yeah, she is managing house, doing all lots of things and involved in a lot of community. You would hear her in some of the new things she is doing. Innovation Day, Jamila, right? That is where you are participating. You recorded some videos for them too. So yeah, she is doing a lot of stuff. So thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, means do you want to talk about that Innovation Day, Jamila?
Thank you, Ash. Well, thank you so much, Parna. Honestly, and that's just you just make me really blush. So that is that is an innovation day like conference, like a summit, which will be March 9. So it's absolutely free. It's data innovating big data, AI, ML workloads with AWS services and on AWS. So it's absolutely free to register. Um, you can find the details on my LinkedIn as well. You can register and then go through the sessions, their recordings, and you can watch on demand and see what are the services there, how our customers using. There are also industry specifics. For example, I'm working with startups, and if you have like a startup idea or you are just starting your MVP and you're thinking, oh, what are the services, how I can utilize, what I can do, so I'm not build millions and millions because I don't have the budget. I would definitely recommend to go register, watch the videos, and just ask questions on our BESA LinkedIn group if you have any questions. And also, yeah, just enjoy. And I'm currently replying. Parna's question, how do you find time to read it? I literally read that book once a week when I'm coming back from the office in the train. When I go to the office, I usually work in the train, but when I come back, I was usually I'm super tired, so I just open this book and I read and I just enjoy. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Good, good. Multitasking. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will keep moving forward, and yes, there are a lot of people who are like inspiring stories. So Jamila is one of them, and we have a lot of people. Abhijit is also there. He is also juggling a lot of things. He is also helping us with lots of things. Prasad is there. So James is there. So yeah, a lot of people, and it's good like when we are able to build a community when people are helping each other, and then everyone gets benefited out of it. So that's a good thing. All right, let's move forward. So we are focusing now on how we want to provide security on this thing. So we provide security by using two mechanisms on a network layer I am talking about. One is called security group and second is called your network ACL. So these are the two components by which we provide security. Let me quickly brief what this architecture is currently looking like. Currently my architecture says that we have created a VPC. This is my VPC here, which is within a region. And in that VPC, we have created subnet like public subnet here. We have a public subnet in another availability zone, and then we have private subnet in other availability zone, and they are sending traffic using this route table or route table, whatever you call it. And we have an internet gateway, so we are able to communicate to them. So that is a very simple architecture which we have just built probably, and then we have a net gateway also for my internal network. So that is there, but how we provide security in this particular context. So let's go ahead and talk about how security group and network ACL work. They provide you network layer security, and I'll explain you some of the details, obviously through an analogy, so that you could remember these things in an easier fashion. What you see here is a building, group of buildings, I would say, and in this group of building there are apartment number like what you see 1 2 3 4 5 6, and in the front what you see is the door of an apartment. So keep this picture at back of your mind, and I'll explain you how to utilize what security group is doing and how we can add security group and perform verification, perform network filtering and all the stuff. Let's consider I am living into building number B. This whole dotted line here, this is the campus in which these buildings exist, and that campus is my VPC. These buildings are representing the subnet, and these apartments are representing my EC2 instances. So what I'm looking for, I want to communicate maybe from instance number 5 to instance number 4 or maybe somewhere else. So I am in a VPC, I have my EC2 instances ready, and now I want to communicate maybe from apartment number 5 to apartment number 2, but within the same building, right? What is there for security? For security, every apartment has their doors, and for the whole building, there is a security guard, and security guard is there in every building as we see here. So this is my current deployment of application or current way of communication across building. Let's see if the communication has to happen from number 5 to number 2. 5 and 2 wants to talk. So 5 walks out of their door, comes out of it, walks up to the door of apartment number 2, knocks on the door, and if apartment number 2 person want them to come in, this person would be allowed to come in, right? In this case, the only security apparatus which is used is your door, right? So, though you live in the same building, though you are in the same subnet, doesn't mean that you can talk to everyone. There is still security in place, and that security is the door which we have created. So, this door would allow you to access things only if the door is open, you would be able to talk to two, otherwise, you won't be, even though you live in the same building, right? So, that is one type of communication. Now, second type of communication, what if a person from one building wants to talk to another building person or want to walk up to their door? So let's say here is my apartment number 3. It wants to talk to someone in other building. So it has to first come out of its door, go through security guard of building A, walk up to building C, pass the security guard the inspection, and maybe then knock on door of apartment number 1. Do you see the difference in the journey? In the first journey in building B, from between 5 to 2, I did not had to cross the security guard, but in case of going from building A to building C, I had to go through two security guards here. What these doors are representing here? Doors are representing your security groups. I'll explain that in a minute. Your security guard here is representing a network ACL, network access control list. Right. So we will see what can be done and we will be discussing these information. Let's see how we will be seeing this information in that. Question from Pawan. I want to thank you again for similar session, which I watched, explained. My concept was actually clear since then I performed some of the complicated architecture hands-on. Thanks for sharing that, Pawan. Thank you that we are happy to hear that these sessions are helping you. So yeah, thanks for sharing that detail. So so we will focus on how the communication happens, how these services work together. So when I'm saying I want to provide security to my architecture, I would go ahead and implement network ACL. Network ACLs are implemented on a subnet level. See this, right? So what you see here, this is the whole building, and in this whole building, we have a network ACL, which is a security guard, which is allowing my traffic or denying my traffic. So that is all happening here. Right. This is my network ACL. And network ACL, if you see, is there in every subnet. You cannot have a subnet which is not having a network ACL. You would always need network ACL. No subnet can be created by without a network ACL. Question to you. When you create a VPC, is there a default NACL? Anyone? When we create a VPC, is there is a default network ACL available? Anyone heard about default network ACL? Yes, that is. So when you create a VPC for the very first time, or even if you have a default VPC, there are few components which are already there. So whenever you create a VPC, along with that, you get a network ACL created, you get a security group created, you get what else? Route table created, and you get your DSCP options created. This happens every time you create a VPC. Obviously, you can change it if you require, but these are automatically getting created for you so that you do not have to learn about lots of stuff before you actually get started. So NACL is there, security group is there, route table is there, and they will provide you the security. Right. So this is what NACL is. NACL is on a subnet level, and let me go to console and show that to you so that you would associate what I'm talking about here. So you could go to this network ACL and security group directly from VPC section, or you could go here into EC2 also, and here is my selection of security group. I could identify security group from here, but for my NACL, I have to go to the VPC section. So I'm going into VPC section, and we'll see that. Haripriya has a question. What is a DSCP? DSCP is called Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It's like giving you a IP address. Like when you join a company, HR department would be giving you a employee ID, right? That has been just given to you because you are an employee. Similarly, when you join a network, you would be needing a IP address to communicate. Either somebody can manually configure it, but it would be very complicated. Rather than that, you would be getting a IP assigned by a central server. A handshake mechanism to bind two parties, in a way yes, in a way yes, but it cannot be two parties, Mahi, because IP addresses can be allocated in manual way also. But yes, for DSCP that is a good approach. Like there is a service who would give you IP address and then you will use it. Same like when you buy a mobile, you get a SIM, and on that SIM you would get a mobile number, and that will become your communication point. Same way, when a DSCP is there, it would give you IP address and it would become your communication channel. Right. So I'm here on my VPC and I am interested into security. I would go to a network ACL. Network ACL are existing for me by default, and if I want, I could create a new network ACL also, and I am calling it, like, let's say BESA NACL 01. I have to select which VPC it would belong to. So maybe I'm saying I want to make it available to BESA VPC 01, and that network ACL is created. Creating it won't do anything, it is just creating it. If we want to provide security, we may have to associate that. And if you see this right now, it is not associated with anyone. It's like a guard is there, but it has not been deployed. It is sitting there. So next thing I would prefer to do is to associate it if I want it. So I could go ahead and say, hey, I want you to associate it. And how, we will see that in a minute. So we need to select a subnet, and on that subnet I would be associating it. So here is no subnet association. If my VPC has subnet, like there are subnets here, public AZ, private, I could have associated them here. And now my subnet public AZA is being protected by the security uh, mechanism, which is called network ACL. Now, in this network ACL, I have to create rules, and rules will dictate what traffic is allowed and what traffic is not allowed. And we create two type of rules here, which is called inbound rule, and we can create here something called outbound rule. So we'll talk about that, but hopefully you are clear that where the association of a network ACL happens, it happens on a subnet level. On the other hand, when I'm creating a security group, its association is little different. Security group is again a type of firewall, and through this firewall we can control what traffic is allowed to come in. So let's say I am creating a security group. I would again call it BESA SG01. I could select a VPC where it would be belonging to. So I have to select, let's say this will be in BESA VPC01, and I could have an inbound rule. See this, there is nothing selected for inbound rule, but there is already a outbound rule present which says all traffic for all destination, all port range is being allowed. And if I create this security group will allow all outside traffic, and it would be not allowing any incoming traffic by default. I have to give a description, and I'm utilizing this thing. What are the critical risks associated with misconfigured security group and network ACL? Junior, what are the risks if you leave your door open in your house? Get the point? Unnecessary people can come in. That can same happen. People may access your services which you don't want them to access, right? It's same like keeping your main door open for anyone to walk in. That would be a risk associated with a misconfigured security group. That is one. Or if you misconfigured in a way that you logged it and lost the key, so what would happen in that case, that you won't be allowing required traffic to come in because the key is not there. So you need to know that door is not a wall, door which can be opened, a wall you cannot open, right? So door I can open for a few people, but for other I would keep it shut. Same way, I would use security group and allow some traffic to come in and some traffic I won't allow to come in. So that is what we would do. And if you misconfigure, you won't be able to talk to people whom you want to, or if you configure it very openly, a lot of unnecessary traffic would be coming to you. So that would be the risk associated with it, right? Right. Question is, may I ask if individual application will have their own security group or NACL? I would say it depends. We do not associate security group and network ACL to applications, AB. We associated them to network interfaces or to the subnet they belong to. So yes, this is a very high chance that a similar type of services, let's say database server would have a type of security group and a NACL, and my web server would have a type of security group and a NACL associated. So probably I would say based on the group of service, based on the traffic they are expected to receive, they would have similar type of rule or may have completely different type of rule. So answer would be it depends, right? Good. uh, Net gateway I'm not covering, Pawan, but I would be happy to talk about it if the time permits. I'll be happy to talk about that if the time permits. So there is a question on net gateway and net instance. Probably I will get some time to cover it. Let's see. All right. Now, so we created a security group, and security group has an inbound rule and an outbound rule. Now, where the security group is associated, if you remember, we associated network ACL to a subnet. Security group is associated with a instance, and if I say very specifically, they are associated to a ENI or a network interface of an instance, right? So see this picture, this is my network ACL, and here is my security group. So security group is on instance level Or even in an instance, what can happen, an instance may have, let's say, two network interfaces, which is possible. We refer them as ENI 1 elastic network interface 1, elastic network interface 2. So if you want, you could go ahead and associate a security group here, a different security group here, and then we could have multiple security group also associated if the need be. So maybe in some places you would see there are two doors for protecting your household. So like in most of the houses in UK, you will find that there is a small door which is allowing you to come inside, and maybe this is just like a small space where you can hang your raincoat or maybe your umbrellas, and then there would be a main door which will allow you to come inside the house. This is just to give you small entrance like this. So that kind of thing can be there. We could utilize multiple security group if the need be, but network is ACL is a one-to-one mapping. You won't have multiple network ACL associated, right? So NACL are associated with a subnet, a security group with elastic network interface with an instance. Exactly, that is exactly the right thing, Parna. This is, you rightly summarize this information, right? Okay, let's move forward. So we could have associated the security groups like this, right? Let me give the differences between them. Can we monitor event in ACL and SG? Yes, you can. Good question. Can you monitor it? Yes. So there is a feature which is called VPC flow logs. So monitor in the sense we will calculate what happened. VPC flow log. Consider on your house entrance you have put a camera. So this camera would record whatever is coming in. Now, when a dog walks in, you may want to take a different action. When a man walks in, you may want to take a different action. So for that, you would need to parse this VPC flow log by some system so that we can identify what type of traffic came in and what type of traffic was allowed. But we can record interaction between ACL and security group, and whatever traffic is coming in and out should not be a problem at all. So yes, we could do that. No issues on that. Okay, good. Now, let me give the differences between them. Differences, security group is applied at ENI level. Network ACL are applied at a subnet level. We just saw that. Security group is stateful. Response is always allowed. Network ACL is a stateless. Request and response both have to be allowed. Let me give an example here to understand this. And this is a very common concept for any firewall solution. They would always talk about whether it is a stateful firewall or a stateless firewall. So let me give you an example to understand that. Most of us have been to passport control. Probably some of you go every month, every week maybe, but depends. So passport control, that is where you go and present your visa, present your passport, and they would allow you. And then depending on the country you are visiting, things will be a little different. Let's see that. So if I'm talking about UK immigration and India immigration, it is little different. In UK immigration, you only need to be present to an immigration officer when you are coming into UK. If you are going out, UK doesn't want to monitor you. UK will not be verifying your details. They would have to just walk out, board a flight and go out, done, nothing. Only when you come in, that time passport control is required. Only in that time you have to go through that. If I'm talking about India or UAE or some other countries, what happens there, whether you come in or whether you go out, for arrival and departure, in both cases, you have to go through immigration and they would allow or deny you. That is the exact same thing which happens with your stateful and stateless. The first way of doing things in UK here, that you can think like a stateful, which means they recorded a person who came in. So if they have checked someone who came in, what is the point to verify them while they are going out? So we say, hey, your request was allowed, and that would mean your response will also be allowed. I don't have to explicitly allow your response. So that is what a stateful type of firewall is doing. Security groups are stateful. What I mean by that. So let's say this is your apartment and here is the door. If you allowed someone to walk out from, a member went out for groceries, then when they are coming back, they are allowed because it is their home. This is what you send them out, and that's why you are allowing them to come in. That's what is happening here. Right. So that is your stateful. So security group work in that way. You do not have to allow traffic in both cases. You just say, I would allow a request to go out and response will automatically be allowed for that. I don't have to explicitly mention that. So that is what a request and response model of security group is. Stateless, on the other hand, says, hey, I don't care. If you get out, that time I would verify, and when you are coming in, that time also I would verify you. So that is how your network ACL actually works. So you have to create a rule for inbound traffic, and you have to create a rule for outbound traffic also. In both direction you would need to create a rule, and that would be called a stateless way of executing the things, right? Let me go ahead to console and quickly show that to you. So if I'm in security group and I say, hey, inbound rule, I want to allow port number 80 to come to my server. So I would say add rule. I could select a different TCP IP or any other protocol. Let's say port number 8080 is HTTP. I want to allow traffic from anywhere. That is one option. Or I could say I want to allow it from only my public IP. So it would detect my IP and put it here. This is my IP as of now. Or I could say no, I want to allow traffic only if it is coming from 10.0.0 or something, then only I am going to allow, otherwise I won't be allowing it. So that is up to me how I want to allow traffic. So this is inbound rule. If the traffic was allowed in, its response will automatically be allowed. So what I don't have to do, I do not have to create an outbound rule also. If I have created an inbound rule, HTTP request allowing for port 80, its outbound will automatically be get allowed. I don't have to specify that. Right. And a default rule exists which says all traffic is allowed to go out, which means if you are living in a home, you could anytime open it and then move forward and go to any places you want. You are not barred from leaving your own house. Similarly, you are not barred or you are not stopped from leaving a EC2 instance and go out to the external world if you are using default security group. But you can change it if you want to. Right. Maybe I would say my kids cannot go. Obviously, my kid is very young now, 18 years, so won't be having a problem. But when he was young, I would not allow him to go on his own from my house. So I could have barred the gate most of the time. Right. Now, talking about a network ACL, let's go ahead and talk about a network ACL. In network ACL case, you would have to associate, we did that, and you have to create rule in both direction. So this is the inbound rule, and the new inbound rule here says that this one is denying everything. So by default, it is denying everything. This is a ACL which I created. Right. This is a ACL which is created by me, which is called BESA NACL 01. And in that, there is a deny rule at the bottom for inbound traffic. And same way for outbound traffic, also there is a deny traffic. So there is nothing allowed in, nothing allowed out. If I want to allow a specific traffic, I would have to add that rule. So I would say inbound rule, hey, I am allowing you to accept traffic coming from port number 80 or for port number 80. So I would create a rule. I would provide a number. I'll explain that in a minute. And I could say I want to allow HTTP and I would allow it from anywhere. Done. So this is my allow and deny. Both type of rules can be created here. So now my allow rule is ready in a network ACL. So traffic would come in, but it is not allowed to go out as of now. So what I have to do then, I have to open an outbound rule also, and then I have to create an outbound rule saying that, hey, we are rule number, let's say 100, and you would be allowing all traffic or maybe all TCP or maybe a specific type of traffic. So you decide what works well for you. You could have put that information. So I say HTTP 8080 and that can be allowed. Now, I could have said all traffic, so all traffic would be allowed to go out. So that depends on how you are utilizing your security groups and network ACL. So they both serve different purpose, stateful and stateless. I hope this thing is clear. You got a better idea of stateful and stateless. Now, this is important. If you remember, when we create a VPC, we get a default SG and we get a default NACL. What is happening here? Default SG, all inbound is allowed from the same security group. All outbound is allowed. This is what is happening. So this is my default. Default says, hey, my door is allowing everyone to walk out, no problem. And everyone's response will also be allowed back in, no problem at all on that. But if somebody is directly trying to talk to me, I won't allow it. So see this, all inbound is allowed from the same SG. What I mean by that, if we have two people living in the house, obviously they can communicate with each other. That is by default rule. So there are no issues on that. But if I am creating a new security group, then rules change. Rule says all inbound deny, nobody is allowed to come in. All outbound is allowed, everyone is allowed to go out. So that is my default rules, right? Okay, that is my security group. Network ACL default says all inbound allowed, all outbound allowed. Basically, this one is working as a transparent network ACL. It is not blocking anything, it is allowing everything to be allowed in and everything to be allowed out. That is a default NACL. So technically, it is non-existence. It is not allowing anyone to go out or go in. Sorry, it is not blocking anyone from go out and go in. That is my default NACL. But when you create a new NACL like I did, it by default don't allow anyone to come in or out. So you have to add those rules if the need be. So that is a difference between a default and a new NACL which you create. All right. Uh, One instance can have many SG assigned, right? So in one house, you may say door number one, door number two, door number three, no problem at all. And you may have to be going through all the doors to come in. So that is one. But a security guard, a subnet is one only. So you can have only one network ACL on a subnet level, not beyond it. Right. So that is how we would be utilizing that. Will we cover DMZ in the future? If not, it would be good to understand how the DMZ fits into architecture. We do not have a concept of DMZ specifically here into AWS world. But yeah, maybe when time permits, I'll talk about that. We do not explicitly call it DMZ. We just call them public or private subnet. But implementation details sometime remains the same. So we'll talk about it if the time permits. Security group, this is important. They have only allow statement. Right. Network ACL, they have allow and deny statement. Right. So allow and deny statement are there in network ACL. So if in your exam a question comes and which says, hey, IP address is troubling me a lot and I want to deny it from accessing my application, only thing I could do is through a network ACL, I could block a specific IP. But on a security group, I do not have option to block anything. That's all is there. Right. Uh, Stanislav has a question. Let me see that. And it says that don't understand default and new NACL ACL. See, let me show that and it would be much easier for you. Give me a minute. I'll go back to the console here. See this. Here are my NACLs, right? And if I select this VPC 0677, let me put a filter here so that we can identify these two NACLs. This NACL is my default. See this one? Let me put a name also so it would be easier for you. This got created when the VPC was created. And let's see the rule inside it. The default NACL says inbound rule 100, all traffic, all protocol, all port range allow. Don't stop anyone from coming in. What is its outbound rule? Its outbound rule says 100, all traffic, all protocol, all port range, destination, all allow. Don't stop anyone from coming in, don't stop anyone from going out. Pretend that you exist but you are not doing anything. A security guard is sitting on the door but not stopping or allowing anyone. It is just saying, okay, no problem, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I'm not verifying anything at all. That is your default NACL. Now, somebody would say, why you created it then? Then we created it to facilitate communication, but it is not mandatory that you have to use it. And that's why what you would prefer to create your own NACL like I did here. And in this, I can be selective and I could say, hey, I would allow only this traffic and this rule I added. If you remember, if I have not added that rule, it would have basically had only a deny rule at the bottom and it would deny everything. It should not be allowed on that. Right, so that is all happening here. Good. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding on that. Shiv has a question. Can you please explain all inbound is allowed from the same SG? What is the meaning of same SG? So I'll explain that in a minute. I'll explain that. So hopefully this thing is clear. Now, let me go to the next topic and let's discuss it. So only allow statement, only deny statement. Next is order is not important in security group. It doesn't matter because security group are just saying allow statement. So let's say you have a security group 1, security group 2, security group 3. One says allow port 80, SG2 also says allow 80, this one says allow 443. When they are applied, 80 is allowed, 443 is allowed, no conflict. In network ACL, order is important. If you created a rule in network ACL which says 100, rule number deny HTTP, and then you created another rule called 101 number and say allow, and you says allow HTTP, that won't work. Why it won't work? Because traffic comes in, first processing rule is this, we check are you a HTTP traffic, answer is yes, hey, I am going to deny you. I don't have to go to the next step of processing it, right? Like an interview, if you have interview round 1, 2, 3, 4, if you fail first round, there's no need to take you to second, third, and fourth. Decision is done here only. So you were matching the first rule. Are you HTTP traffic? Answer is yes. Let me deny it. I don't have to process the next round of rules for you. So that is what a network ACL is doing. It is processing things in that in order. Can we change the rule of default NACL? Yes, you can. Manisha, why not? You can. So you can go ahead, modify the default rule. What you cannot change is the default bottom rule of a NACL. So default bottom rule of a NACL cannot be changed, and let me quickly show that to you, and then I'll answer one more question before handling it to Jamila. So this is my ACL, and see this, I could edit. This could be default, this could be anyone, I don't care. And here I can remove and add, but the last rule which says star all traffic, all deny, it cannot be modified. Most of the most of the applications of firewall would have a default deny rule. So if you are not matching anywhere, we won't be allowing you. Right. Now, let me give you an example of the next thing, which is your source of IP address, port range, and all, and that would answer the question we had about what is the difference when we say all outbound is allowed and from same security group. Let me ask you a question by drawing something here. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay. Now, let's say my requirement is very simple. I have two EC2 instances. I have a EC2 instance called A. I have a EC2 instance called B. My requirement is that I want to allow port 80 traffic from anywhere. Right. This is what I have created into one of the security group 01. And I have associated the security group 01 to these machines, and these are now being associated with security group 01 here, SG01. That would mean allow port 80 from anywhere. So anyone who is coming in for port 80, they should not have a problem at all. Now, in this case, my question is, if in this case, if machine A wants to ping B or B wants to ping A, will this traffic will be allowed if this is the security group and they both belong to the same network ACL? So network ACL is same, they are belonging to the same network ACL, so it won't come into picture. They both are in the same subnet, and with the security group rule, A and B wants to talk to each other. Will it be allowing that traffic or not? This is the only rule present into my security group. Will it allow ping from A to B? All right, you may be having different ideas. Let me draw that what is actually happening. Okay, this is A, this is B. They belong to same subnet, doesn't matter. This is a network interface of A, this is a network interface of B. So they both belong to security group 01, but when the security groups are implemented on them, what they are basically doing, they are implemented like this. Though it is a one security group, but it is instantiated like this, which means this is allowing SG, allowing port number 80. This one is allowing security group port number 80, no problem at all, but there is no mention of ping. So what will happen here? The ping won't work, right? So how I would utilize this if I want to allow ping between them, let me explain that thing to you. in the console now. So we will see that how it will. Ping is not on port 80, yes, that is exactly, but let me see how we would allow it. So I'll go back to my security group, and where is that? Here. And in the security group, I would be saying, let's say, okay, let me utilize a security group which we have here, launch wizard and all. I would maybe want to create my BESA security group here. If you see this, this is my BESA SG01, and in that I would be creating an inbound rule, and I say, okay, I want to allow port number 80. Give me a minute, let me copy this thing. I'll explain why I'm copying that. So here I could say I want to allow port number 80. I am editing the inbound rule and port number 80 is being allowed here. If I want, I could delete it, and I could have added, maybe let's say I want to allow only port number 443. Right. So HTTPS is only what I am allowing, nothing else I am allowing, and that I am allowing from anywhere, no issues on that. But it doesn't say that we are allowing ping also. It is only HTTP. So one rule I could add here and say, hey, I would allow ICMP, which is a ping traffic. And that time I could say that is all, see this? So I am utilizing all ping traffic. And if I say now 000, that would mean I am allowing ping from everyone, but that was not my requirement. I wanted to allow ping from the people who are in the same security group. So what I could do here, instead of having an IP address range, I could have given a custom address in the same security group detail I could have passed here. So what actually this is saying, this is creating a rule in which my traffic is allowed. Let me use a different color. So this is saying, hey, this is my security group. It would allow 443 to come from anywhere. And if somebody belonging to the same security group is trying to talk to someone in the same security group, if their both security groups are matching, I would allow the ping traffic. And that is what we mean by allow traffic from the self, and this rule exists into the default security group. So what I did here, I ensured people from outside can do HTTPS, but they cannot ping each other unless and until there is a rule created. So that is my default setting into the security group. So what I could do, I could reference the same security group if the need be, or I could reference additional security groups also if the need be. So that's how we would be managing all this infrastructure. So I hope everything is clear. Anyone, any questions, any doubts, any confusions on this? I hope everyone is following along and understanding how they are utilizing that. All right. So you could decide on what rules you want. And one last thing, you could go ahead and create something like this. This is your web SG, this is your app SG, and this is your database SG. You would have your machines running here, web server, data application server, and so let me call it web, app, and DB. And this is my web SG, app SG, and database SG. I could create a rule here which says allow port 80 and 443 from anywhere because I want to make it a public network. And I could say, hey, ASG or your application security group, allow 8080 only if it is coming from web SG. So only they can talk to each other. And on my database, I could say allow 3306 only if it is coming from your application security group. So what I did a nesting structure. I controlled the traffic. So everyone who is coming from web is allowed to access only this. They can't access this. But if the request comes from web tier to app, we would allow. And if app wants to talk to database, we would allow. We won't allow this direct communication also. So that's how we could nest security group and create a highly secure architecture, allowing only specific things to be allowed, not everything else. So I hope that has given you a better idea on how this kind of architectures can be created. All right. All right. So hopefully this thing is clear. Anyone who is having an issue, let me know. Any questions, any doubts, we would be happy to answer if we can. Could you please hide the question, Pop? Sorry, I forgot that, but hopefully this is now there. Okay, good. Last question, how we handle the limitation of number of rules that can be added in NACL? Rafia, if you are doing that many rules creation, then you are doing something wrong, I would say, right? So you won't have both type. You won't have too many rules created. You would mostly have allow rules and then let the rest of it being disabled or being denied by the specific deny rule. So if I know, hey, this is just a web server, so why I have to create hundreds of rule? I have to just create a rule which says web server, this traffic is allowed. And in your real world, what you could do, you could create rule to allow traffic only from your application load balancer. So that would give you more protection. So you could say my application load balancer would be in front, it would receive all traffic, and only when it forwards traffic I would receive on my web server, I won't receive any traffic. So if you're creating too many rules into your network ACL, I think you have to rethink what you are trying to achieve, because rule would slow down if you have too many of them. I believe there is a limit of 200 or 500 rules totally, so just check that. But if you are doing that many rules, probably you have to rethink on why you have so many rules and figure out a better approach of creating some solution. Maybe you have to use a different type of security setting. In that case, maybe a firewall at application layer would be working best rather than that. Okay, good. All right, good. Any more questions, anyone? Any doubts, any confusions? Okay, thank you. I hope you got questions answer for most of it. I can't answer everything. We have limited time, and I already stolen 8 minutes from Jamila's time. Sorry for that, Jamila. So I'll let you be presenter now, and then I'll drink some water so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ash. While you were presenting, I was thinking, oh my God, Ash covered already everything that I wanted to cover in a way better way. So I'm not sure if these 100 people will stay to see the demo, because again, you covered really, really in more details, and it was really awesome. And I personally was learning as well, so it was really cool. Thank you so much, Ash. I see you there.
Come
I mean,
on,
I
come
can
on.
drop the mic. I mean, I can just shut it down and just leave. There's no need for.
No, no, no. We want to hear from you, and we want practical things, so we need hands-on. I could see Abhijit and Prasad are also there. So thanks for being there, Prasad and Abhijit. And hopefully, we would have more interesting people joining soon to our channel, and we would be able to answer many of them. So over to you, Jamila. Let me know if you want to share screen, so I'll add your screen here in the presentation.
Yes, please. Yes, I will be sharing my screen, and I will be quickly explaining what I'm going to do. And then we can get started. So I'm using Firefox. I hope I will be able to present and share my screen. Cool. So hi everyone, it's me again. I'm back. I see someone is saying Asnak Hader saying hi JJ, hello, and thank you so much for staying um, and watching my session. So today, let me share my screen. All right, don't show this again. Select window. Okay. So as soon as I start sharing my screen, I will not be able to monitor the chat in a regular basis. So if there is something coming up, maybe Ash or Prasad or Abhijit, whoever is on the line from the BESA team, please give me a nudge. So I will hopefully be able to see the questions. Okay, so
We don't see your screen, Jamila, as of now.
yeah, thank you. I know I haven't started
Okay,
yet.
yeah, okay, no worries.
Hello. I hope I'm sharing the screen. Yeah. Am I sharing my screen? Yes, I am. Cool. Awesome. Okay, I'm on the left side, so you will see me sometimes. I'm kind of looking on the left side. I just have a big screen there, which is currently Twitch running there. So sometimes I can monitor the chat. But overall, I'm on my laptop and looking at the camera, hopefully, and going to present about EC2 hands-on lab. So what we usually recommend our customers people who are getting started on AWS, who I also consider our customers, because, well, soon they will be using our services and they will become our customers. Why not? Myself as well, when I was preparing for to learn AWS cloud and services, I think this AWS General Immersion Day is a fantastic resource, which is publicly available. You can go ahead, click on the modules and see step-by-step implementation and how to get started. I really hope that you are able to see my screen properly and the writings here, so it's not too small, although I think okay, 110%, because based on the feedback from Prasad, he also zoomed it a little bit so people can see properly on Twitch. If you are, yes, I see. Yes, we can see well. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So the General Immersion Day, let me quickly copy and paste this to our chat. All right, here. So you can also follow along while we are going to walk through and demoing on AWS console. So this is a General Immersion Day. We are going to run the basic modules, specifically compute, Amazon EC2. And in today's session, I'm going to cover EC2 Linux hands-on lab. So we have Windows hands-on lab, auto-scaling on AWS, and I just decided to, let's go ahead and use EC2 Linux hands-on lab. So here you can see the high-level architecture, what it is, what we're going to cover. As Ashish was covering already, that you can use the default VPC, which will create route tables, I don't know, security groups, etc., etc. That's what I'm going to do today. So I'm not going to create a new VPC and the security groups, the route tables, etc. But it is purely for testing purposes. So please be mindful when you are using the default VPC for your production environment or for the environment where you actually need to be careful and not to give access to the internet. For those use cases, we do highly recommend you to create your own VPC, assign the route tables, the security groups, NACLs, internet gateway, whatever you think is appropriate for your workload. So this workshop, this architecture is purely for testing purposes and purely for learning purposes. So we can see, for example, for me, when I start learning something, I don't want to go ahead and try all the single details one by one, because I will get really confused and I will forget what I was actually learning. What was the whole purpose of this mess? Okay, so that's why we're using default VPC. So everything will be already created so we can focus on the main purpose of this workshop. All right. We are using public subnets as well, and we will place our EC2 Linux instance on a public subnet. Again, this is for testing purposes. If you are planning to use for production, be mindful what you're putting in a public subnet. For example, if you're having a database instances that are running on EC2 instance, then we do recommend to put your database instance on a private subnet. So it is secure, so all the data in your database is not accessible from the internet. There are some ways of doing it. It's not the whole purpose of today's workshop, but just saying that be mindful what you put in public subnet, what you put in private subnet, and how you make sure that it is completely secure. In this case, again, public subnet, default VPC, we have internet gateway, which we will have access to the internet. So the first thing first, we are going to create, so when we create an EC2 instance, we will need to have a key pair. So the key pair will help us to access our EC2 instance using SSH or another another part can be also using Session Manager, which is on the left. You can see that is an optional, but I'm happy to walk through and show you how you can connect to your EC2 instance using Session Manager. This is my kind of favorite connection method, because I don't have to go to my terminal, type things, and then try to connect. Rather, I do prefer, when I work on AWS console, everything in one place. Basically, I assign IAM permissions, roles, and then I run my workload on EC2 instance. And then if I need to connect and see what is happening in the background, then I can use Session Manager. This is my personal preference. You don't have to do that, but it's a good way to know that there are other options to connect as well. So we will need to, first step, we will need to sign into AWS Management Console, and then we will click on the left-hand side in the network and security bit for key pairs, and then we will go ahead and create a new SSH key pair. We will give it a fancy name. We will create the key file format in .pem. Then we will click on a next, and we will go ahead and launch a web server. Let's go ahead. So before the session, of course, as someone, myself, who is sometimes freaking out that my demo is not going to work live, something will go wrong, something maybe is not working, maybe there is a bug in the workshop, I don't know. Anything can happen. Technology can fail all the time, right? So I was testing yesterday, just before the session, and to be prepared for the session, that everything is working and everything is fine. So I went ahead, I created an instance, basically walked through the workshop, and it is all working. But I'm happy to create them all over again, and to see together on the call, together with you all, to see how it is actually working. So let's see what is the first step here. I know I just walked through, but I still forgot. Key pairs. All right. So in the network and security, we go to key pairs on the left-hand side. I am running my workload in North Virginia, in AWS account. I guess I have a bunch of other instances running in other regions, specifically in Europe. So I just decided to run in North Virginia, where it is nice and tidy, so I can see one list instance that is relevant to our session. So we go to key pairs. As you see here, I created one yesterday, but I'm happy to create one again with everyone on the call, so just to make sure that I'm not naming them the same. I can do Bessa Twitch, I can do Bessa Program 2. So I know that it is a second key pair that I'm creating and not confusing myself. So what we're doing here, we are creating a key pair, so we are able to access our EC2 instance using SSH method. Please, when you create your key pair, make sure that you are saving it in a safe place, in a safe folder locally, if that's your method of doing it. So in my case, I'm not sure if you see on the screen that it will be saved in downloads. Yes, show all downloads. I don't want to show all downloads, but once I create, it will be saved in that directory. However, my recommendation, do not keep it there. Like, it is not safe. Again, because it's for training purposes, we're just testing. I am not taking into consideration the security as a number one priority for this workshop, but for you, for the future, as a knowledge, please save it in a safe location in your local machine. So this is the key pair that we just created. We see that it was created successfully. Now we are going to instances. So to launch an instance, we are going to hit the launch an instance button. We can move to the next session here. So in the EC2 dashboard, so if you haven't created any instances, you will see the screen something like this. You will launch an instance, and we will give a name. So let's name it BESA program 2. You can name it anything you want. Thanks to my awesome colleague Ashish, who already covered all the single bits of this quick start Amazon machine image that I don't have to cover. And I was at some point freaking out that, okay, Ashish, you did all the work. So what I'm going to do? So it's cool that I don't have to explain you all the single bits. So for this workshop, as I said, we will use Amazon Linux, and we will use Amazon Linux AMI. We will keep all the let's say sections and required required architecture and variables as default. So we're not going to change anything, and we are going to move to instance type. In this case, I will use tier 2 T2 micro, which is a free tier eligible. That's what I also did before joining AWS, just testing things and seeing how does it actually work. So on the next session, we see here key pair login, which is key pair name required. So if you haven't done in the first step, but you just joined the session, or you just kind of rushed and thought, oh, I will just first create an EC2 instance, maybe then I will create a key pair login, which you can do by clicking this button, and it will take you to a place where you can actually go ahead and create your key pair. So here we see that there are 2 key pairs that I've created. One Vesa Twitch that I did yesterday, and then the one that we did it today together, which is BESA program 2. And then for the next session, we see the network settings. Again, in the network settings, as Ashish already in a detailed view covered, that you can create security groups, you can select existing security group. So if you are using a VPC that you created, it is, so you already know what are the security groups, route tables, etc., etc. So you can go ahead and select existing security groups that you already have. You can tweak around if you want to allow HTTPS traffic from the internet, or if you want to allow HTTP traffic from the internet. So in this case, I'm just going ahead to hit the edit button just to show you that this is a VPC which is default, and this is another VPC probably God knows when I have created and left it as it is. So I'm just going to use the default VPC as we see here, and just to check it with the workshop in parallel that I'm doing things in a correct way. Okay, so click the edit button. That's what we're doing. It says no preferences. Yes, that's what we're going to do as well. It also explains VPC that is required default. In the workshop, they are indeed choosing a subnet, the preferred subnet that they want. Good for them. I don't have any preferences, to be honest. Whichever subnet my EC2 instance will be created, I'm quite happy with that. The security group will be, it will create a new one, and then the description, and then the security group role. Cool. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see. So we are editing our network settings. So we are in the VPC. So VPC default, what will be subnet? Subnet, as I said, I have a bunch of subnets here, but I am not fussy at this time, and I will leave it as it is, and I don't have any preferences. Auto-assign public IP, yes, I do want AWS to auto-assign public IP. That is the reason I will keep it enabled. Firewall, if I do select existing security groups, as you see here, I did create BESA Twitch security group yesterday. I can attach it here, or I can just create a new security group. So it is really handy and comfortable instead of you going back and forth. Previously in the EC2 console, as far as I remember, like 2-3 years ago, we didn't have an option to immediately in-house to create a security group before you hit the launch EC2 instance. So it is now here, which is really awesome. I love it. So we can now create a security group name, BESA program 2, and then this is a security group for BESA program. We just gave the description, which is again, now it is required, which is cool, because previously when it was not required, I personally was always skipping that part, that okay, who cares about the description? And then at the end of the couple of months, I have a bunch of security groups created, and I have no clue what this security group is, what for I created in a couple of months ago. And it was such a mess, to be honest. And I was confusing myself by having a bunch of security groups names. I was just giving test 1, test 2. I wasn't very creative on that side as well. And I wasn't giving description either. I was thinking, hey, it's just for testing purposes. And at the end, I was having a bunch of them, confusing myself. Don't do it. And I'm glad that the service team just added this one, that it is required. So you better write it for what is the reason you're creating it. Cool. So for the security group rule number 1, we are going to allow SSH rule, and then I don't want to do anywhere. I do want to do from my VPC. Apologies, from my IP. So to keep it more or less secure, because you will see the elastic IP address attached or assigned to my EC2 because it is live, and any of you can go and access it. I don't want that for security purposes. I don't want you, because for that you can also give like a footprint to access my key pairs that I just created. So I don't want that. So more or less, I'm sometimes conscious about the security for testing purposes as well. So here I'm giving access for SSH. I'm giving the source type my IP, and I also want to give set a rule for HTTP. HTTP, and the source type again will be my IP. I'm just gonna double check with the general emergent day to see if I'm on the right track, which seems to be right. So advanced details, okay. So once we created the security rules, we are going to see the configure storage. To be honest, I won't be bothered with the storage. I will keep it as it is. In the advanced details, it is you can see you can request the spot instances, you can assign the IAM profiles. I'm not going to do any of this, but what I want to do instead, here somewhere, sorry for scrolling too fast, I know it's annoying. So in the user data, which says optional, we are going to copy and paste this bit of information, which will launch a web server for us. So let me just copy paste, and I will quickly walk through what is that thingy doing. Okay, so here it will install automatically LAMP stack. It will start the web server. It will also install the web page for our lab. It will also install the AWS SDK for PHP, and it will update existing packages as well. So instead of us doing it all manually, we can just copy paste, and as soon as we launch the instance, it will be doing it in the background. Summary, it will show us number of instances, correct? We just want one, and then it shows us the AMI, the instance type, firewall security group that we create the new security group, and then storage volume, and then I will happily launch the instance. While my instance is launching, let's see what is going to happen next. So we can go and see, click the view instances button, and then in the lower right hand portion we will see the EC2 instances, and then we will see that the public IPv for DNS name is assigned. And then we will click on open the address, and we should see a page something like this. So I will give you a quick heads up. Yesterday, when I was walking through the workshop and following the steps one by one, I saw that I'm not seeing this web page that I should be seeing. I was quite concerned, like, why it's not working. And then I saw the notes. So I'm one of those people who are respectfully neglecting all these notes here, which says if you are using the Chrome web browser, which I was using Chrome web browser, and you attach public IPv4 value to the web browser, if it doesn't run, which was my case, HTTPS may be automatically added in front of the DNS value, which was the case indeed. So what I did is that just deleted this S bit, and then my website was up and running. So if you are like me, just walking through the main parts and just kind of ignoring these notes and pop-ups, this may be the case that you are not able to see on your browser. Cool. Let's have a look. So it says successfully instance is launched. So what we're going to see here, I have two instances. One I launched yesterday, one is today. This one specifically, BESA program 2, that we just did it. Instance type, it says running. Status checks passed. I didn't set any alarm status, and it says the availability zone, that the also public IPv4 address DNS is being assigned as well. I don't have any monitoring enabled, so we have security group names, we see here, key names as well, and launch time. So once I selected the BESA program 2 instance, I can see that the public IPv4 DNS been assigned. Again, I was thinking that, oh, it's quite handy, open the address and then it takes you to a new tab. But again, it was lagging, probably because it was again assigning me to access that web page for HTTPS, which I didn't give permission in advance. So what I'm going to do is to run it for HTTP. So we can see here, I'm not sure, okay, I can move it around. So we can see here that as soon as I click the open address, it generally, that's what I'm thinking here in Firefox, it takes me to HTTPS. Here, it says that it's not secure, makes sense, but the web page is up and running, it's all working, and we were able to successfully launch our web page in a matter of minutes. Of course, that data bit that we added in the additional details, absolutely flexible, so you can change it, you can rewrite it, you can remove, and you can basically do whatever you want. But for these testing purposes, it was just a simple example on how you can do it in a matter of minutes. So cool. Let's see what is the next step. Cool. It says, I love when I see in the workshop that great job, you have deployed a server. And I was like, yeah, I'm cool, I know it. Next, we can connect to our Linux instance using Session Manager, which is optional. Okay, now I just noticed that we are 5 minutes over time, and I see some people are dropping. Let me quickly connect to your Linux instance using SSH, and then I promised to Stanislav on the chat that he was experiencing an error that I was experiencing yesterday, and how I was able to fix it. So I'm going to cover SSH into Linux instance now, and then I can cover, whoever is interested can stay, and I will cover the session manager bit, and then it will be basically end of our session. No worries, Stanislav, it's my pleasure. All right, so it says here in the EC2 instance console, you can select the connect bit. Okay, let's go ahead. So this is our EC2 instance that we just created, and hitting the connect button. Here we will see a couple of options when we kind of connect. What are the options? We see the session manager. So This is really lovely that we create the new one, and it says like, we are not able, you will not be able to connect your instance using Session Manager because you don't have IAM instance profile. For that, you need to set this and that, which is explained in General Immersion Workshop. I followed step by step, and I can show you how we can do it in a matter of minutes. So nonetheless, SSH client. So it says open an SSH client, locate your private key file, run this and these commands, and it should work ideally, right? Let me quickly open my terminal. So you can see here my terminal. Hopefully it is seen. So what I was doing yesterday, what it says here, let me just move it around. It says example, it should look like this, and it is really handy to just copy the command and just paste it here, right? If I do yes, I do want to proceed, whatever it is. It says permission denied. And I think it was the same error that Stanislav was asking in the chat. That, and to be honest, I was thinking as well, hey, why permission is denied? I'm the admin. I'm the one who created. This is my laptop. This is my directory. And it was like, bang, it is a directory. So where is my key pair located? It is in downloads. Downloads. Okay. So my key pair is in downloads. That I know, that I mentioned at the beginning, that please do not leave your key pairs in downloads because it is not secure, it is not safe. And but for the testing purposes, it was downloaded to downloads, and then it was I didn't move it. I was like, okay, fine, and we will just carry on. So for that, now since my key pair is in downloads, oops, I don't know why it is showing this. Oh, okay, give me a second. I'll quickly delete this, and then I'll run the command again, which is SSHI, this one, right? Correct. And then it should ideally, I will run it again. It should ideally connect. It is not connecting.
Maybe the chmod command required on the third tab.
This, I think this one. No. This one I was running.
Okay. Yeah.
Give me a second. I will run it. You're right, Ashish. chmod 400. BESA, which is basically explaining in the in instruction here with C, PEM. I'm in downloads. Okay. Oh, I forgot number 2. Is it correct now? Yes. I know I can copy paste, but I'm too nervous. All right. Now, let's see. Oh, goodness, what did I do? Okay, let me just, okay, it was somewhere here. Yes, we were able to access and connect to our EC2 instance, which is a victory. Yeah, and I see someone in the chat. I just saw, because again, it's on my left-hand side, Ranga668 saying chmod command to be run was the key in directory. Correct, thank you. I respectfully ignore that bit as well. Yeah, so once we did it, it is able to connect. So you can see here that the EC2 user at IP, and which is saying my IP address, the EC2 IP address. So we are in the instance, and whatever you need to do from your instance, you will be able to connect. I can see Stanislav is messaging in the chat that I repeated all of your steps and luckily connected. But yesterday I did the same from my downloads folder and wasn't able to do that. Thank you for the explanation. No worries at all. That's why we're here. That's why our sessions are running. And I love that Stanislav was able to bring it up on the chat and we were able to quickly actually cover it on the session live. So I do encourage you all, if you are doing something similar, taking away from our sessions, running on your site, having some issues, and you know that you tried X, Y, Z, it's still not working, it's super helpful for all of us to cover, to understand, and to see what we can do all together. So I'm glad that we were able to connect to our instance using SSH client. For session manager, if we go ahead, of course, my session is expired. Give me a second. It is authenticating me from my console. Cool. So if we go to our instances, BESA program, and if I want to connect, yes, here we will see that the session manager part says that it is not, we are not able to connect because there are some steps you need to basically perform. So for here, that's what we did here as well. And then, okay, we were connecting. Oops, it was here. So you see that the roles, you need to go to IAM console. You need to find the role and assign that role. And then once you have that role, see, like here, it basically explains everything. That's what I did yesterday, following step by step what is explained here. And I was able to connect. So let me just quickly show you how it's going to look like. Like this one I created yesterday, session manager. So once you figure out the IAM role and then attach to the instance, I can do it as well, but I will just quickly show you the end result. So the session manager, you connect to your instance. Okay, so we hit the connect button, and now magic should happen. Okay. So yeah, we are now in our instance. So it says that the session ID is this is the instance ID, and this is basically what is happening. And I don't know what I can write. My favorite one, sudo give the root access, which is not safe and secure at all. So do not repeat it for your production environments at all. But yeah, just show you that it is in my instance and it is in the root. It is in the root access as well. So this was the systems manager, session manager. So we were able to connect using session manager and SSH client. I don't know, do you guys all want me to cover the IAM role as in the workshop, or will you be comfortable enough to go ahead by yourself, seeing how it works? I don't mind to show you in 2 minutes how it works, but I want to be, I want to kind of follow what you guys, everyone wants on the call. I do have time, of course. Sure. Can you cover the IAM role? Of course. Go ahead, please. Sure. Nice. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and cover. So this is the workshop. Again, you can do it yourself as well. It is fairly straightforward. And I'd like to perform the same on our, if time permits. Thank you. No worries. So, okay, we are going to IAM, which is Identity Access Management tool and service. So here, okay, so I'm gonna respectfully ignore what it recommends me for security. I probably messed up something somewhere, but that's not the whole purpose. So I'm going to roles. In the roles, so you see here, in the roles, we will need to create a new role. And then we will do for EC2. Okay, let's go ahead and create. So roles, we will create a new role. So when you create a new role, it gives you a couple of like trusted entity type. Like what is the role about? Is it for AWS account, for example? If you want your production account to be able to access XYZ, or is it for AWS service specific? Is it SAML 2.0 federation? So there are like, or custom trust policy. So there are like several entity types. In this time, because I'm creating a role for EC2 instance, not a user specific, but just for the instance by itself, I'm going to have AWS service like an EC2. Yes. So common use case EC2. Correct. That's what I'm going to do. You can use case for other AWS services. Like if we click on EC2, it will tell me what exactly you are trying to do. Like, is it for open source service, Amazon Grafana, batch, bracket, etc., etc. I'm gonna leave it. Won't be bothered, to be honest. I will just hit the next button, and here, permission policies. Let's see in general if we are on the right track. Yes. So in the permission policies, it says Amazon SSM managed instance core. We need to attach that permission to the role that we're creating, right? Oops. This is my session manager. I can close. So what was it? Amazon SSM managed instance core. Okay. So I was quite lazy yesterday and I was just typing SSM and I didn't see anything here popping up. I was questioned, like, why it's not popping up? What is happening? Do I really need to write Amazon SSM blah blah blah? To be honest, you can even just run SSM and then hit the search button and it will give you roles. So it is basically showing you as a tag, and you can even run Amazon SSM, SSM, and it will use as a tag as well. So it is not as a normal search feature that we're used to see. Like if I'm writing something here and it will show me. So this is a product feature that I didn't know, to be honest. Like I didn't pay attention. So here we need to just find Amazon SSM managed instance core policy name. So here you can expand and see what that policy is actually doing, and kind of walk through and see, okay, you will be able to the effect allow, you will be able to get deployable patch snapshot, for instance, list associations, I don't know, update associations status. Here it is also allowed creating control channel. It is also allowed EC2 messages, etc., etc. So we selected this policy name, right? And then we hit the next. I don't want to set any permissions boundary. Again, it will get quite complicated and messy. So I'm just gonna keep it simple and follow the workshop. So role details, what was the name we created? Besa maximum. Okay, Besa, okay, I'm allowed to use hyphen Besa program 2, role name, description, you can leave it, allows EC2 instance to call AWS services on your behalf. This is the select trusted entities. You can, if you want to go ahead like extra step, you can add here the account ID specifically, like who can access as well. But again, we're just gonna keep it simple just to understand how to be able to access SSM managed instance core and connect to our EC2 instance. So we're going to hit the create role button. Something went wrong? No, maybe. Okay, it says it's creating, but to be honest, I was expecting that it will take me. Okay, it took me already. Okay, I'm a little bit impatient today. So role BESA program 2 created. Let's go ahead and see if it is the same in our workshop. Hopefully it is. Okay, so now we need to go to our EC2 instance. EC2, right? So instance running, we are going to our BESA program, and what we are doing is we're going to actions, we're going to security, and we're going to modify IAM role. And here we're going to attach the role that we just created, BESA program 2. And then we're going to update the IAM role. Once we did that, now hopefully we go to BESA program. Okay, maybe it needs some time to be attached.
Yes,
Right.
sometime it takes little time, Jamila. So
Yeah, probably.
maybe little, yeah, maybe little bit like that agent would be contacting SSM backend, and then probably it would start showing. So yeah, probably a little bit.
All right, all right. I'm quite impatient today, so um, yeah. So basically, yeah. Let's check with the workshop. It goes to actions. It should go to security. Yeah, modify IAM role, and then you basically attach the IAM role that you just created. Um, and then you will be able to hit the connect, and then session manager will be showing nicely, and then you will be able to hit the connect button, and it will work as expected. And it shows here that if you are not able to connect, you need to perform some of the steps like IAM instance profile, etc., etc. Okay, let me try again. There's a program connect. It's not showing for some reason. Um, Maybe I did connect for something else. Security, modify IAM role. Was it actually that one? Okay, if I do SSM instance, yeah, probably something is going on in the backend that I'm not sure, because I've created two instances, and one I created yesterday, and I checked with my web server for BESA, the one that we just connected, and it was working. For some reason, the one that I created now, the instance specifically, is not doesn't want to connect. Probably, yeah, it might take a couple of minutes. As again, because I'm impatient because we're running out of time. But this was basically the workshop. If you go through it, it will work. Should work, ideally. What we also recommend at the end of your workshop, please, please, please do clean up your resources. Go ahead and terminate your instances if you don't have anything there specifically. Just hit the terminate button. Let me do this one maybe. Oops. This one, just terminate your instance. It will tell you that EBS backed instance will be deleted. On an EBS backed instance, the default action is for the root EBS volume to be deleted when the instance is terminated. And if you have any data in your local storage for EC2 instance, it will be ephemeral. It will be deleted as well. So if I hit the terminate, it will be terminating the instance. So you are not charged unnecessarily. I hope the session was interesting. Again, I'm not sure what has happened in the backend, why it wasn't connecting to my to the SSM, but rest assured, it was working yesterday, and I followed the General Immersion Day workshop as well. So technology is failing sometimes, which is
Yeah, means
expected.
it's just matter of time. It would
Mhm.
come up, so that's
Yeah,
okay, completely fine. Yeah, it will come up. No worries on that.
cool, cool.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jamila. It was interesting. And Prasad is also here with us. And what Jamila covered is good for basics. So, like if you're just starting up and you do not know EC2 and how it works and how it connects and all, so then that is a good workshop. And I hope most of people are from that. But we have a couple of people who are also coming from background of advanced stuff, and that's why Prasad thought, hey, though we are late, but it's better to cover a bit of advanced stuff also so that everyone can benefit from it. So he would just quickly share some of the information on someone who is on advanced and they already know about EC2. They want to build something better once they have finalized the basics. So welcome, Prasad. Happy to have you here. How was your run? I guess you went for a run. You are on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, run was really good, and that's why I was late today. And anyways, Jamila was covering the entire demo part of it. But I thought, let's, Jamila covered all the basic stuff. And in case if you want to, provision one EC2 instance, Jamila showed how to do that. But let's say if you want to provision like tens of EC2 instance in one go, or if you want to, do some different things, like instead of using the default EC2 image, if you want to like kind of create your own custom AMI, right? How would you do that? Right, a
Now,
bit more
one
advanced.
disclaimer I want to make here for people, like, we appreciate you taking so much time and we really want to share so much stuff, but we have limited time. So if you want to drop off, we won't mind. You may have your own stuff to do on weekends, so feel free. But yeah, means if you could stay, why not? But if you want to drop off, that's completely fine. We are way over limit, but we want to share as much as we can. So feel free to drop off and you can watch recording afterward. Over to you, Prasad, back.
Yeah, exactly. I know we are over time, so feel free to drop off, and we'll quickly. I'll not take much time, 5 to 10 minutes max. I'll cover it off, and then you can anyways watch the recording. I'll just show, like in case if you want to do advanced workshops, how you can do it. Let me share my screen. I already shared my screen. Yeah, thanks, Ashish, for putting on the screen. So go to the normal EC2 workshops, our website, and then search for workshops at AWS and search for EC2, and then you will be seeing few workshops here. The two that will be important will be EC2 spot workshops and EC2 image builder workshop. So let's go through them one by one. So for example, EC2 spot workshop, this is the one, EC2 spot workshop. Here, if you want to launch spot instances, you will be able to do that. It has all the steps of how you can launch the spot instances. But what's more interesting is that if you want to, for example, this launching EC2 spot instances via EC2 fleet. So you have seen how you can launch one instance at a time. But if you want to, provision more instances at one go, you can use EC2 fleet. If you see here what exactly EC2 fleet is, EC2 fleet contains the configuration information to launch a fleet or a group of instances. So in a single API call, you can launch multiple instances and types across multiple availability zones. And you'll be able to provide them that how many on-demand instances you would like, how many spot instances you would like. So if you want to have hands-on experience on those, try and do these launching EC2 instances. It provides you all the different kinds of way you can launch it, like how you can create a launch template, how you can use auto-scaling group, and then this one is really interesting, creating a spot in eruption environment. Like Ashish mentioned, right? Like why the spot instance is used. And let's say there is a moment when the spot instance is taken away from you. How would you like to test that? So you can use this particular lab to actually test that. And you have running a workload. Let's say you have two on demand and five spot instances, and you're saving costs. But the price change, and your spot instances are taken away. Then how your application is going to behave? And you can use that, initiate interruption to kind of simulate it. So we have something called AWS fault injection simulator, through which you will be able to inject faults and test the resilience of your application. And we have Sprout blueprints. So through the blueprints, you would be able to kind of create what kind of spot instances you would like to use. And they are more advanced. So this is like a 400 level workshop. It's like a very advanced workshop. If you want to go deep and deep, you can be able to use spots with containers, and then like ML model training, and then like creating CI/CD pipelines and all of that, if you want to do it at scale. The second workshop that I would like to talk to you about is EC2 Image Builder Workshop. How you can build your own images and then go from there. So if I click here, again, this is like I would say advanced workshop. It'll take around 2 hours to do it. And this workshop tells how you can. So we have seen how you to instantiate Linux instances, but this tells you how you can like do Windows instances and at scale. In the module 1, it will tell you how to build a EC2 image on your own, and then distribute and deploy secure images. Then use AWS Systems Manager to automate the patching. So like any security patches that come up, how you can do it. If you have, let's say, thousands of images, instances, then you'll not be doing it one by one for all of them, right? So how you can use Systems Managers to manage them at scale. And this really is helpful for your AWS SysOps certification, in case if you're planning that. and then how to monitor, and so on and so forth. So go through these workshops. These are a bit advanced, and you can do them on your in your own lab. So you may skip this section if you are plan to use in your own account. So this is only if you're using a hosted account. If not, you can skip this section and start from building golden images using EC2 Image Builder, and it takes you in depth about how you can do that. And these are the ways, like when you will be actually managing it in your companies, or the role that you would be in. These are the way that you'll be doing it, instead of doing it manually is something that you should be knowing how to do it, to know the basics. But once you actually do it, you will be doing it via the pipelines, via the IAC. So, and this particular section goes you all through that. So like how you are going to build this whole pipeline, right? And then how we are going to use the IAC to actually do all of that. IAC is infrastructure as code. That's pretty much, I'll not take much time, just uh, quick things. I wanted to just let you guys know that if you want to do some advanced stuff, feel free. And here are the links to both the workshops. And as I said, you can always find these workshops from the workshops.aws site directly. Just you can search for it.
And we will be
Cool.
keeping these links in the resources page. So anyone wants to refer it again, or people who are watching YouTube, they can always refer to it. So yeah, we will put that. And be mindful of the cost. We don't want you to pay unnecessary. So just use the resources when you need it, and then remove it once you are not needing them. So hopefully, and even if you're like getting few dollars, I would say let's set a budget. Let's say $5. Hey, I am okay to spend $5 on AWS to learn things. $5 is not something very big for most of us, so probably should be okay. But yeah, keep that budget in mind and be mindful of cost. Okay, good. Anything else, Prasad? Anything else?
That's pretty much, yeah, someone asked MSK Lab. I did share it, but in case
Yep,
if you want
thank
to have
you.
specific service, go here. And just like I search for MSK, and it gave me MSK Labs. So is there any
MSK is
specific
managed
one that you
service
would
for
like to?
Kafka. So it's a little
Oh, yes.
advanced stuff. But yes, yeah, better like if you have something like this, go ahead and use MSK. There are lots of workshops available. These advanced workshop may have cost, may not always use the free resources. So be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Or you can become a community
Cool.
builder and get an AWS credit. That's a good thing. Why not? That's a good idea, Asna, right? Yeah, that's a good thing.
In fact, a lot of Besa team members are becoming community builders. Like I started getting messages today morning on, LinkedIn that, got selected as a community builder. So that is really good. We encourage everyone, like whoever participating, share your knowledge through, creating few Medium articles, creating some videos or blogs, right? And then when the next cycle, you will, the community builder will be open, apply for it. The only requirement is that you are actually building in community and sharing your knowledge, and then you can become a community builder, and then you'll have access to resources, credits, expertise from AWS, and that really helps folks.
Good, thank you. So I hope everyone has enjoyed and learned a lot of stuff. We encourage you to share your feedback, speak about this program on LinkedIn or any other social media so more people can join in and get benefited. And if you have any ideas which we can implement to improve your learning experience, do not be hesitant in sharing it. We don't promise we would be able to implement everything or would be able to answer every question, but yeah, we will see. Obviously, there is a deliberate effort we put into it. We go through all the questions, we go through all the preparation work every week, and we try to give maximum as much as we can. And we thank you for your support, and hopefully you have enjoyed something. If you learned something, please share it on LinkedIn, let others know, and once the videos and recordings are available, put them into your profile. Why not? Thank you so much. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Prasad.
you.
Thanks, Jamila.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Pleasure. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.